And so something else seems to be required on a one day at a time basis to help a person get to long-term recovery, and also just get a person into comfort and acceptance and start to enjoy yourself. Your resistance needs to go away. How does it happen? Well, it happens through love, as this alchemical ingredient of love. So when you bring love together with discipline, now you have devotion. Okay, beautiful. I see Amy.
Aloha, Tommy.
Aloha.
So wonderful to be here and be in circle to share this great good fortune of learning how to be a better human being, how to be more recovered, how to live life to its fullest. And you've been an inspiration to me for a long time. And I feel as though we're on this journey and, whether it's being home during the pandemic with the boys home from school and doing the breakfast of champions with them, showing them your little video, or, just doing this gig called life. And I've been practicing yoga for a long time. Interestingly, longer than I've been sober. So quick background, probably close to 35 years of yoga practice in various ways. Not always daily, but I'm a lot better when it is. And then I've been sober from alcohol, got sober in 1994. So that long-term sobriety and how do we keep going and how do we get the inspiration? So this is where my question, my inquiry for us today comes from, and that is rooted in humility, how to be of maximum service to God and our fellows, how to differentiate God's will from my will, how to know how much I can turn over to God. Like God can do for me what I cannot do for myself. I spend a lot of time striving. And when I strive, my body responds, I get the grip, I get the strife. Striving leads to strife in my life. And so I surrender to win. And then I wonder, what's next? How do I differentiate? How do I know? And I'll give you a key example and then I'll hush up. Writing my book, doing my coaching, doing my practices, having Nikki Myers on my podcast. And I shared with her, my mentor says, if it's hysterical, it's historical, and whether she got it from that or not. But I hear this and I just get energized and yeah, we got this and we got to spread the good news of recovery. But then I take my foot off the gas and I'm like, I'm not going to do all that. That looks like a lot of work. So I'm sitting here in great admiration of what you've done, Tommy, with Recovery 2.0, with the podcast, with your book, happy venturing into your 33rd year of recovery and returning to ease. I celebrate you and I draw inspiration, but I also wonder, what's enough? So there were multiple layers in there, but that's kind of where I'm coming from. Great. If that makes sense.
Yes.
I can talk for a long time, so I'll just hush up for now. Amy, thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Amy. So multiple layers here in this inquiry, God's will versus personal will. That's an epic topic, and we want to tackle that. Also, this idea of what motivates us to go another day and to have an experience of long-term recovery, and what is enough, and how do you know? So beautiful, beautiful inquiry. Beautiful. How to approach. People sometimes say to me, wow, you're such a disciplined person, which always makes me smile, always makes me laugh. Because honestly, from the way that they mean it, most people, when we use this word discipline, it means one's commitment to doing something that you actually don't want to do. I think that's how our society looks at discipline. Wow, you're such a disciplined person, meaning maybe it was you've gotten to the gym every day for however many days. Wow, you're so disciplined. Or you did however many days of sadhana morning practice. Wow, you're so disciplined. I think that's how most people think of discipline, is this strength to do something you don't really want to do, but it's good for you. So if you could do it a number of days in a row, you're a disciplined person. The word actually means to be a student of something. So the word disciple, I'm a disciple of this, I'm a disciple of that. And of course, to be a student of anything, there's a certain amount of regularity that's necessary, a certain amount of steadiness. So I'm looking at the word, first of all, from that perspective of being a student. If someone said to me, you're a very disciplined person, from that perspective, I could say, that I actually am. I'm not somebody who likes to do things or will do things that I don't like over time. I'm just not. I have never proven that ability to myself. In fact, one of my barometers of should I turn left or should I turn right is, what do I want to do? What would I love to do? Where do I think I belong? Like, that's what will determine where I go in my life. But from the perspective of being a student, I would say thank you to anyone who thinks I'm disciplined from that perspective, because I want to be a student always. I would seek that, and I have sought that out. I've sought it out of necessity, but I've also sought it out of love. So that's the first thing I want to say about discipline. And the reason it's relevant to your inquiry here is because recovery from addiction is absolutely a discipline. It is for a person to become a student of life. Interesting that we in our community, meaning the greater recovery community of the world, everybody who's ever recovered from anything and raises their hand in a circle and says, I'm in recovery, or whatever your language is, we all think we came to this path because we had to. And there may have been that element of desperation which drove us initially to the path. But this is as legitimate a spiritual path as any religion, any spiritual process, any spiritual path. The 12 steps, the path of recovery, is nothing more than a study of life. That's it. Yes, it's strange that the people who have come to this path all seem to have had these challenges with substances or addictive behaviors, but nonetheless, no matter how we got here, we are students of the path. It has required discipline in the sense of we must remain students of life. And in fact, the only thing that has ever been asked of us as people in recovery was, can you be truthful in your study of your life? Because if you can be truthful, then you'll be able to make progress. This is what we were told. It was couched in different language. Rigorous honesty. Can you be rigorously honest? Can you discern the true from the false? And the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous and many of the other texts speak about the power of honesty and the power of truth. Okay. And by the way, so does every other religion and every spiritual tradition. So we're all trying to find the truth. So we are students of the path. We're students of life, and that's what we're doing here on this journey. The word discipline takes on a different hue when we look at it from this perspective. Let's add yet another layer. When I first got sober, I had not yet gotten recovery. I didn't understand the thing I'm telling you right now. I didn't understand that I was becoming a student of life, that I was going to have to pay attention. I didn't get that. All I knew was I just had to stop using drugs and alcohol because they were killing me. I was so unhappy, and I was praying for some change in my life, something different. It required that I do certain things to change my life. I had to go to meetings. I had to speak honestly about what was coming up for me. I had to get a sponsor. I had to start to write and to read certain things which would help me figure out how to move forward. And I had to get to many meetings, like 90 meetings in 90 days, this kind of thing. All of those things require discipline in both senses of the word discipline. I can assure you, when I did 90 meetings in 90 days, I did not always want to go. I had to go. And in fact, my sponsor, my first sponsor, right at about 15 days sober, I called him on the phone and said, listen, I know you said I should get to a meeting every day. I want you to know I'm clean and sober. I feel great today. A little tired. I'm going to sit this day out. And that guy was like, I'll be at your house in 5 minutes. Be downstairs. And we're going to a meeting, especially now that you've opened your big mouth and said how great everything is. So my resistance came up. So I did need discipline in the sense of the word of doing something I don't want to do. I also needed to become a student or to become a student of my life. So that first part of recovery, I think for everybody, there's a certain amount of desperation, which is a good thing at the beginning. Desperation is a good quality upon which to get sober, to change your course in life. I've said it many times. I don't think desperation is a good thing in terms of getting you to long-term recovery. It isn't the vitamin. Maybe that's the, desperation, vitamin D. That's the vitamin that's going to get you into recovery. But to get to long-term recovery, something else is going to be required, because that desperation that got you sober is going to be gone soon. You're going to feel better. Your body's going to recover. Your mind's going to calm a little bit. You're going to eat 3 meals a day. You'll sleep at night. And your ego is also going to recover. And so all of a sudden you start thinking things like, well, I feel pretty good. I admit I had a tough run there for a minute, but it wasn't so bad. Maybe I could go back. Repeat the experiment again. Terrible idea. So if I stayed sober in the beginning because I had to, because I was scared, fearful of going back, fearful of what would happen to me if I went back, at some point in my recovery, that fear had to turn to love. That discipline had to turn to devotion. Had to. Otherwise, I'll still be in fear. And the reason for me going to meetings will still be based in fear. And so I think when a person makes that switch, or when it happens for them, where they are no longer staying sober out of fear, now they're staying sober out of love for the life that they have, for the possibility of this life, for the wonder and the awe of this life. Now that's a person who is knocking on the door of gratitude. And if we have that thing called gratitude, then we are going to be able to not just remain abstinent, but we're going to have this thing called recovery. We're going to become excellent students of this life. We're going to learn the lessons that this life has to give us, the joyful ones and the challenging ones. And we're going to get to live this amazing, amazing existence. This is that we're speaking about that process, that shift that can take place from early recovery and an emphasis on abstinence, discipline, to love and devotion and an emphasis on recovery and thriving in life. Now, God's will versus personal will. There's an energetic quality to pursuing life from one's own will, disconnected from the greater spirit around us. For me, that quality has felt, there's been fear, there's been pain to it. Sometimes feels like I'm swimming upstream. There's a lack of flow. There's a lack of love. And generally, there's a lack of joy. Now, I've been in those places in recovery long enough and enough times to recognize mostly when I'm in it. So if I'm in it and I find myself swimming upstream, my inquiry is not external. My inquiry is not to the world, why are things not playing out the way I want them to? Why are things not aligning? The inquiry is internal, as it must be. As our yoga and our study of life tells us, turn the gaze inward, ask the question here, which is what we're doing right now. So when I turn the gaze inward, it sounds more like this. What am I doing or not doing that is out of alignment with my truth, with my heart, with the truth? Where am I not in a place of acceptance of things as they are, while at the same time working towards the realization of heartfelt desire? Huge inquiry for me. Rather than, hey, I really want to look to the world for more money or more of this or less of that. Instead, it's like, no, there's something off in my alignment. Now let's get into this a little more deeply. I once upon a time had for what is for me a misunderstanding about my relationship with the Great Spirit. I felt like I'm here and the Great Spirit is out here. That's how I felt. That was my vantage point. I'm here, the universe is out here, which meant I was excluding myself from the universe. Literally. Well, there's the universe, and then there's me. A quantum shift took place for me when I recognized that the divine, the Great Spirit, higher power, God, is not separate from me. I'm a part of it. It runs through me. It's powering the cells of my body, my heartbeat, my respiration. It's doing things that I can't begin to even grasp, internally and externally. When I made that connection, internal and external became one. No longer was I praying to something that was outside of me. My prayer became both internal and external all at once because there was nowhere where this thing wasn't. My prayer became much more a revelation, a request for deeper understanding than, God, I wish I could have this thing or this circumstance take place in my life, because if it did, I really feel like, I'd be happy or I'd be healed, or wouldn't it be great if? I used to pray and communicate with higher power from a place of fear. I'm terrified that this thing is going to take place or not take place. Could you please make sure that it doesn't take place or it does take place? You know, I'm asking for something here. Rather than prayer coming from a place beyond doubt. That changes the quality of prayer altogether and the power of it. A prayer beyond doubt sounds like, I am so grateful to be alive and surrender into the will of the greater intelligence around me. I pray for the greatest possible outcome here. And I can make a self-centered prayer. I'm allowed to do that because sometimes that feels good too. It's just I don't take it too seriously, you know. But if it could sound like, you know, I pray for guidance that I can feel a greater sense of flow in my life and a greater health. Well, that's a fair prayer. That's okay. I'm not coming from a place of fear. I'm coming from a place of, you know, I actually think this is going to take place. So when I'm aware of this concept of the unity of all things, I can't forget that I'm a part of that unity. Now that means that there is a way for me to orient myself which is most in alignment with the greater intelligence around me. My effort, therefore, in recovery and in the spiritual path of the study of life known as recovery, my effort might be to refine my intellectual, intuitive capacities, to do the work of waking up spiritually, also growing up emotionally, getting past myself. But you see, even in that language is a problem. I want to get past the parts of myself that keep me at a distance from the awareness and the experience of the Great Spirit and a greater bandwidth of intelligence. But I don't want to get past myself in the sense of like there's something wrong with me, because that's not accurate either. It's various levels of alignment. And when I'm aligned, 100% of the time, there's flow. And I can feel it. I can feel it. I have felt alignment in success, like a success I worked for or felt in the world. I have felt the same alignment and connection in grief, in failure, in sadness. And all it is just a settling down into the emotional reality of that moment as a human being and saying, wow, I'm in pain. Oh my goodness, I'm in pain. This is okay. This is okay. I don't want to stay here, but there's something to be learned here, and I'm going to learn it. And in the meantime, I'm going to feel it. And I've been so blessed with family and friends, I can share it. And here we are. So it's just to say that to be in alignment with God's will doesn't mean you're not going to experience difficulty or pain. Very rarely will you have to suffer in the sense of a never-ending situation of difficulty and pain and suffering all the time. Rare to have to go there. But this concept of the correct use of personal will usually has to do with the release of expectation or the idea that things are supposed to be another way. There are so many crannies and nooks to this that it would be another few hours to continue. I want to hear from you. I want to understand what's coming up for you, and then we can continue a little bit more in this beautiful inquiry.
Thank you so much, Tommy. The nooks and crannies are definitely vast. And what's really jumping out, what's resonating, what's landing so wholeheartedly is this embodied knowing of love and tethering back to that. And in that, the questions sort of dissolve. And my ego was speaking, the years of recovery, the years of yoga. My Al-Anon program has been about 1.5 years. It's shorter. I think you've shared that recently in the Circle podcast as well. This is new for me. And someone suggested that love might be an acronym for let others voluntarily evolve. So I'm learning how to love my husband of 21 years even deeper by what he said in therapy this week is you're on your high horse. And my high bar, my high vibe living comes across to my beloved as me being on a high horse.
Sometimes.
And that helps me. Yeah.
Sometimes. Not all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. But just that realization of, oh, how do I detach with love, do me, trust that God is everything or God is nothing. That felt sense within also resonated with me. That's how I feel the love. And then getting into flow. And my mentor shared with me the other day, only work with clients that you can fall in love with. And your reminder of that today, like the people I allow influence my mind. I don't just turn on any podcast, Tommy, like you're up there. It's like, okay, I'm going to let you influence my mind because we speak a similar language. So that's some of what initially jumped out. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Amy. And anytime we've spoken a lot about these things, this smartphone, there's going to be a time when nobody anywhere refers to this as a smartphone anymore. We're going to recognize what a misnomer that is. But anytime we turn that on, listen to somebody else's marketing, somebody else's advertising, somebody else's anything, we are opening ourselves to their consciousness. We are opening ourselves to their opinions. It's true here also, of course. And so each of us individually, we have to decide where we're going to put our time, what we're going to listen to, who we're going to be around, the whole thing. And also that also falls under the category of how do I know the difference between my personal will and God's will? Well, there's a joy in making a decision to go somewhere and do something. And if there isn't, then one asks oneself, is this something I would like to repeat again? And we're guided along through our intuitive work. Last thing I just want to say, I'm in a 20-year marriage myself. We just celebrated 20 years, Kia and I, and it is wonderful, and it's taken every bit of 20 years to get to the ability to cover the challenging topics we now get to cover in our relationship, which we could never have done this in our 30s, ever. We wouldn't have the lived experience and the depth of connection to be able to have the love or the sophisticated argument we might have together. We have earned that shit over 20 years. And it couldn't have happened any other way. So I have such respect for, first of all, that you're in a therapeutic process. Kia and I have always been in a therapeutic process. We wouldn't go without it. So whenever people are like, oh, I'm having trouble in my relationship. Do you have help? Do you have help? And most of the time it's like, no. I mean, I thought therapy was for people who are not going to figure out their marriages. I'm like, wrong answer. It's for people who want to figure out and access a deeper level of truth and love and all the rest of it. So bless you, Amy. Thank you so much for your inquiry. Wonderful. Aloha to you.